exclusive insight into the world of Badger athletics. This is Wisconsin Huddle. Here's Andrew Banstra.
Woo! All right. Welcome into Jay's Bar here in Madison. This is the Wisconsin Huddle. I'm Andrew Banstra with WISC TV. Thrilled to be joined by someone who needs no introduction, the one, the only Joe Thomas, Wisconsin football legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer, you name it. Joe, we're so happy to have you here at Jay's tonight.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, man. Thank you for having me out on this amazing night here in Madison, Wisconsin.
As you know, we like to start the Wisconsin Huddle by getting to know our guests a little bit more with a game we like to call Two Truths and a Blitz. The catch here is that Joe is going to pretend like all three of these things that I say are all true. The challenge for you in the audience is which one of these three things is the lie. Joe, I think you could probably pass as a pretty good liar, right?
I don't know about that. I feel like you're incriminating me now.
Sure.
I've never lied a day in my life.
Just for these next 3 minutes.
Except for when I met my wife right outside of Wando's there. I did maybe tell a few little fibs. But
a couple?
Other than that one, yeah.
So we'll start. The first fact, because all three of these things are facts, is that Joe was drafted 3rd overall in the NFL draft. That is the highest ever by a Wisconsin Badger, right?
Great question. I thought these were all, we're going to just go with all of them, but
yeah.
I feel like it's close.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to go with yes.
Okay,
that's the
fair
truth.
enough. I'm hoping that maybe you're just like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question.
For sure.
At that NFL draft, or that year, you described attending that NFL draft in person at Radio City Music Hall as the best experience, or one of the best experiences of your life.
I think I remember saying that. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And also, as we mentioned, he is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, one of only 13 offensive linemen that have ever been first ballot Hall of Famers. Joe, of course, is one of them. That for certain is true.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go with that. I'm 100% certain that that's true.
Okay, so we kind of narrowed it down to one of the first two, and our challenge for you in the audience is which of those is true and which one is a lie. Two?
We got some twos here. We got two. We got a one over there. Three maybe around the corner. I don't know.
I'm seeing
it's
a whole
a
lot
little
of
split,
twos.
but a lot of twos I'm seeing.
So I think that was the lie. At least that's the way I wrote it. That was the lie. You didn't even go to Radio City Music Hall,
I was
right?
not there. I was on the shores of Lake Michigan fishing for salmon with my dad. Had better things to do that day than to go hug Roger Goodell and put on a suit that I didn't have.
Apparently, had a fish on the line as you got, the Browns on the line. Is that part true?
Yeah, we were catching brown trout, and they cut off our fishing trip, which I'm still a little bit upset about. The Browns drafted me 3rd so early because we had to leave and get on the owner's private jet and go to Cleveland and then go do media stuff.
And I'd have to imagine, to bring this full circle, that if you could go back every time, you would have chosen that to be doing during the NFL draft, not being there in person, right?
Yeah. I didn't grow up dreaming of being at the NFL draft. I grew up being in the NFL and being a player.
Yeah.
And so I know the draft's a big deal, but for me as a lineman, I just wanted to go and train and go play football. I didn't want any other silliness.
I don't blame you at all, and we're just starting to get to know Joe a little bit better. We'll do much more of that when we come back to the Wisconsin Huddle. Welcome back into Jay's Bar in Madison. Andrew Banstra, thrilled to be joined by Joe Thomas. And Joe, we're going to play a game that we like to call Badger Blind Rank. So I'm going to tell you 5 things that you already know about yourself. What you may not know is how you would rank those in order, given that you don't know what the order I'm going to throw you at is.
Okay.
We'll start with being a Badger. On a list of 1 to 5, where would you rank that?
1.
Okay, and what does it mean to be a Badger? Why is that special to you?
It's special because it's my identity, right?
Sure.
It's where I went to school, where I played college football, where I learned to be an offensive lineman, where I came into manhood, where I met my wife. The personality that I have today is because I went to school here and because of the great people that I met and the great coaches that I had allowed me to have my NFL career, which set up everything I'm doing now. So
Okay, where would you rank this? As you may know, Joe Thomas is the NFL's Iron Man. He took 10,363 consecutive snaps. That is an NFL record. Where would you rank that 1 through 5? Or I guess 2 through 5.
Right, okay, 2 through 5. So I would say 2 probably, because in my NFL career, I've done some things that I've gotten accolades for. Never any personal accolades, like never scored a touchdown, never had a catch. But like the thing I'm most proud of from my career is that consecutive snap streak, because to me it symbolizes I showed up for my teammates 10,363 times in a row to be a great servant for them.
I think that's a really good place to put it. And you mentioned all pros. You were an 8-time all pro, but you made a Pro Bowl in each of your first 10 seasons. You're one of 5 players in NFL history to do that. Where would you rank that, I guess, 3 through 5?
Not knowing what the other 2 are, I would say like number 4 maybe.
4?
Just got to
Okay.
give myself, in case there's one that's lower than that.
Sure.
Like, obviously, I have pride in that, but individual accomplishments like that, they're great. Certainly helped me get in the Hall of Fame, which I'm proud of.
So you mentioned Hall of Fame. Where would you put the gold jacket on this list? You got, I guess, 3 and 5, and just that moment, getting the call, the induction, all of it.
I would actually, all right, I'll go 3 on that one. I'm
Okay.
glad I put the All-Pro below
Sure.
that, because when I was playing in the NFL, I had 3 kids at the time. I got 4 now. And I remember that moment for the rest of my life because of the joy that I felt that my kids were able to be there and be part of something that felt like it was my football career.
That is amazing. And you saved 5 for another really good one. You were on 2 NFL All-Decade teams. Not very many people can say that. Would you have wanted that to be 5?
I would say maybe above the Pro Bowl All-Pro thing, possibly. Although being one of 5 guys in NFL history to make 10 straight Pro Bowls to start their career, the names on that list are also pretty cool.
Well, we've talked a lot about Joe's NFL career, but let me tell you, he's doing some pretty cool things in retirement. We'll talk about all of that and his second Hall of Fame career when we come back to the Wisconsin Huddle. Welcome back into Jay's Bar in Madison. I'm Andrew Banstra, joined by Joe Thomas, and this is the Wisconsin Huddle. And Joe, we know you as a Hall of Fame football player, but you've got another Hall of Fame career that is already in the works. You own a company called Hall of Fame Beef. What has that experience been like, and what is it that you're doing?
Yeah, it's been an incredible experience. My family and I, we've got a farm out in southwest Wisconsin in the Driftless Hills, beautiful area of Wisconsin if you've never been there. And we're raising Wagyu and Angus beef and trying to feed them everything that we raise on our farm. Health and fitness has been a big part of my career, and when I retired, I lost about 60 pounds. And I've always been passionate about raising my own food as much as possible and taking that next step as I was losing the weight and cutting out the carbs and eating a lot more protein, even more protein than I did as a 320-pound offensive lineman. It's hard to imagine. But I just started seeing the benefit of eating really high-quality proteins, high-quality beef, where you know it was raised, you know the products it was fed throughout its life, you know the care that was given to it, low-stress environment, and then how that makes you feel and how it helps you with whatever health journey you're on.
Now, tell me, what is Wagyu? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of associate it with Japan and think maybe you would only get it in Japan. Like, what is it that makes it so good? And is it the best kind of beef that you can get on maybe a grading scale?
Yeah.
Kind of, how does that work?
Well, I think it's pretty good.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the outside of Japan, there's only 4,000 to 5,000 registered full-blood Japanese Wagyu in the United States, because in the early 90s, there were some American businessmen. They did some backroom deals with the Japanese government. They got a couple hundred animals out on 747s. They brought them here. Then Japan sort of revolted. They stopped shipping any genetics whatsoever of their Wagyu because it's a national treasure.
Right.
Because it is such high quality beef. Used to be reserved only for the emperor and their family to be able to eat. It's got 2 to 3 times the intermuscular marbling of conventional Angus or any other steaks that you'd get at the grocery store. It's got a higher level of tenderness, so it just melts right in your mouth. And the fat, it actually has a lower melting point because it's got really high monounsaturated fat and omega-3s. I told you I'm sort of a health nerd now.
Sure,
and really
sure.
got into that. And so it's actually, they've called it like the salmon of beef
Okay.
because of the high quality of fat that's in there. But the benefit of that, because of that fat being higher omega-3 and monounsaturated fats, is you put it in your mouth, and the temperature in your mouth starts to melt the fat.
Like chocolate almost.
Yeah, it's like chocolate. Yeah, it's like M&Ms. It's going to melt in your hand, right?
Sure.
So you got to put it in your mouth. Whereas regular conventional beef that people are used to, right? You got to kind of render it on a smoker, or you got to put it on the grill or whatever to start getting that fat to render. And so it creates an amazing mouthfeel, an umami flavor that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So I think when people try Wagyu for the first time, they really get blown away. Even just having a burger or something, it's a different experience, it's a different level of beef experience when you eat it, because of how it melts in your mouth and because of the amazing tenderness. And so we're raising the full-blood Japanese Wagyu. We raise American Wagyu, which is a combination of Angus and Wagyu. And then we just have good old Angus, because sometimes, you just want that bite,
Sure.
that beefiness that we're all familiar with of the steaks that we had maybe growing up. Or, I still eat a lot of Angus as well, because it's amazing as well. But
I heard you gave it to somebody awfully special, a Packer. Lucas Van Ness, you made a special.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So he hit me up and just said, not like, hey, give me free beef. Like,
Yeah.
hey, how do I buy some beef? It's always sold out.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll make a deal with you. I said, next time we harvest an animal, when we have it cut up, I'll let you know, so that if you want to buy some, you can be our first customer on that animal. And so we sold him some over the summer, and he was like, this is amazing. I need some more. And so a couple weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now, he hit me up and was like, hey, can you bring me a huge, giant, the biggest Yeti cooler that they have, full of all of your Wagyu steaks? He said, I want to do something nice for the defense.
Oh, wow.
I want to be able to just put it in the locker room and let them take some stuff.
Absolutely, and if it's good enough for Joe Thomas and it's good enough for Micah Parsons, I think it's certainly good enough for me. You got a customer out of me if I could get my hands on it. And we'll get to know Joe Thomas much, much more when we come back to the Wisconsin Huddle. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Huddle. I'm Andrew Vanstra with Joe Thomas. And Joe, we've talked about a lot of things, not as much football, and let's talk about football. Wisconsin certainly not having the season that they may have hoped for. And Chris McIntosh put out a statement on Monday saying that he does still very much believe in Luke Fickell and will in fact add financially to the funding that the program gets. In your opinion, is that the way forward, or are there any other adjustments to get back to the Badger days that you played in?
Well, funding is a huge part of college football right now. Back in the days when the SEC was the only teams that were allowed to pay their players, it was an equal playing field, other than, hey, we can recruit to our school because we got this great tradition, we got these beautiful facilities, we got a great school, we got great party scene. If you're Madison, you should come here, right? Now it's like, yeah, we got all these great things, but a player's probably second question is, hey, how much are you going to pay me? Because I got Ohio State paying me $1 million. I got Oregon offering 1, 2, or whatever it is. I think that's certainly that first big step that we need to make. But I'll say probably the next thing that I think is really important is when Barry Alvarez got here, he said, we're going to put a wall around Wisconsin and no Wisconsin football players are going to go anywhere else. And he meant it and he did it. So I think that's probably, if I was looking at what are the two biggest things that we need to change, one, we need to have more funding to be able to pay those players at a competitive rate with the other teams in the Big Ten. And then the other thing is we need to put more energy and effort recruiting the players within Wisconsin, because I think we've seen throughout the years, going back to when Barry first got here and he had Joe Panos, right? Guys that maybe weren't great high school players are willing to work themselves into being great players. And how much does the team that you're playing for matter to you? And if you grew up in the state of Wisconsin as a Badger fan, it just means more to put that helmet on and with the motion W. And so finding guys that maybe don't look the same on film as guys that you could recruit in other states, oftentimes become your best players, your All-Americans, your Jim Leonards, because Badgers meant something to them. It was important to be a Badger. And even though they showed up on campus maybe not as developed or ready to play and contribute, because of how important this state is and this team is to them, and the fact that they've got all their parents and their family and their friends watching them every single week, and caring about what happens with that team, you're going to get more out of them. And a lot of times they're going to become some of your best players. And they're going to be the guys that talk about the values and the tradition that's here, that build a culture in your locker room that was so much a part of Badger football past, that's just not a part of it right now. And I think that's one thing that they can fix immediately.
In our last segment, I'm thinking it's not going to be so easy for you. We've got some tough questions for you when we come back to the Wisconsin Huddle. Welcome back into the Wisconsin Huddle. I'm Andrew Vanstra, joined by Joe Thomas. And Joe, we're going to play a fan favorite game called Famous Faces, where we test your knowledge on your teammates of past, maybe a coach in the past, maybe just Badgers that you may not have played with. 5 faces, hodgepodge together, and we'll test your knowledge.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
So
My
it
goodness.
makes up kind of an ugly face, you could say,
Yes.
but together they're all great people.
Okay.
We'll start at the top. It's kind of hard to see, but
Okay.
do you have a guess who that might be?
So I think that's Barry Alvarez. I feel like that was probably the one I know.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Barry Alvarez is correct.
All right, great. Woo! Yeah. Great job, Joe.
Clap it up.
You're the best.
The second guy is a guy that you blocked for, I think, just your senior year. I think he was a
Ah,
freshman.
PJ Hill.
PJ Hill.
That's a great tip. Thank you for that.
I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. Third, you didn't block for him, but sometimes you didn't even need
All right,
blocking.
JT. Jonathan Taylor.
How good has he been this year?
Oh, unbelievable, man.
Unreal.
He is so fun to watch. And, you know, we talked a lot about the tradition and the feeling of being a Badger and stuff, right? Guys doing stuff like that at the NFL level just brings alumni like myself so much pride and joy. And, you know, you hope that other running backs that are in high school are looking at him right now doing great things in the NFL saying, hey, I want to go to Wisconsin because I want to be the next Jonathan Taylor.
All right, fourth. This may be the toughest one. You played with him in Cleveland. He was a
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny
I was going
Manziel.
to say, because it doesn't look like anybody I know. in
Fair
Wisconsin.
enough. 4 for 4, and
All right.
5 I think would be easy, but
J.J. Watt. I'm
J.J.
saying
Watt.
Arizona Cardinals. He's got that big, beautiful cartoon chin on
Yeah,
him.
he does.
And a nice little chin strap beard at the time. So I feel good. It's J.J. Watt.
5 for 5. How about that?
Yeah.
That is pretty good.
He gave some great tips.
Thank you.
I was in need of some tips there for a minute.
And we've got still one more game to go. We mentioned that Joe has the NFL record for consecutive snaps taken, 10,363. So we're going to call this game 10,363 snap decisions, but we'll only ask you just 4 questions, not that many.
Right, good.
The first one would be Packers or Browns. Who do you root for? And they played each other earlier this year.
They did, and I've got bragging rights for another 4 years
Sure.
here in the state because the Browns are my team.
Okay.
That's where my bread is buttered.
How about this? You mentioned you never scored a touchdown in the NFL. Would you rather have a pancake block or score a touchdown?
I'd rather score a touchdown
Sure.
because that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I had a
Yeah.
lot of pancake blocks.
Yeah.
So having something that I haven't had would have been pretty cool.
Fair enough. We just mentioned J.J. Watt. Would you rather block Myles Garrett, former teammate, right, or J.J. Watt?
I'd rather block JJ because I successfully blocked him a few times. Miles, I never successfully blocked.
Okay,
Even though
fair
he was
enough.
a rookie when I was in my last year in the NFL. JJ's an incredible player. He's a little bit better over guard or a center, and Miles is hell on a tackle.
Sure, absolutely. And we've got one more question. Would you rather take one more snap as a Brown or as a Badger?
One more snap as a Badger.
Okay.
Because, you know, when you're playing college football, you just love everything about it. The atmosphere, playing for your hometown team, your buddies, your roommates that you're playing with, the way you're going to celebrate after a good win.
Sure.
Like, for me, it would be the Badger.
Well, Joe, it was a pleasure to have you right back here in your hometown, and it is called the Wisconsin Huddle, so we always close by your favorite way to break a huddle, whether it was in college or the NFL. Did you have a favorite way that you did that?
I would usually say 1, 2, 3, dominate!
Okay, dummy?
Yeah, dominate!
Oh, dominate.
Dominate!
Okay,
Yeah,
sure. All right,
yeah.
count us down. Let's do it.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1,
Dominate! Thanks
we
so
go.
much. We'll see you next week.
Family First Man.